What's going on, everybody? It is your main man, Big Ive, the talk of the town, Mr. DETVCH.com. So, you, as you notice, I haven't been on that much because I try to stay away from one-on-one because a lot of people, a lot of politicians wanted to, come on the show. So I decided to just keep it more community-based. So today, I wanted to bring you this special episode in the middle of the day because first, what I want you to do is share this, right? Share this across your platform because it's something that I believe that we all believe that Wilmington needs right now. So in studio, live guests right now, and if you're watching, thanks for watching. We're on DETV 28. And we're on Comcast, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all that. But who we got right now in studio are people that are making an effort and making a good impact on changing what you see and what's happening in Delaware. Because we all know that Wilmington is an awesome place to live, and this gun violence and just violence in general is getting out of hand. So right here we have Pastor D from head pastor at Joshua Harvest Church, and my homegirl Tara Williams from the community.
Yes.
And together they put their fists together along with some other people. Let's not forget them.
Right.
They put their forces together like the Wonder Twins, and they're making this wonderful peace march. This unheard, let me say this, unheard peace march happen. So let's start with you, Tara.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
What part do you play? How did this come about?
Okay. For me, I am just ordinary community, lived in the community, and have been a witness to a lot of the violence that has taken over in our communities. Being a mother, being a grandmother, being a neighborhood mother, watching our babies drop off like flies. I, in turn, was at a funeral where I happened to see Pastor D, and him and we had spoke about the violence that was taking over the communities. And I heard about this march that he was actually having. So I, in turn, became a part of this great march. It's called the Silenced Voices, where all the people that have lost their lives due to violence, their voices have been silent. And we're going to miss them. We're going to miss our loved ones. We're not going to hear their voices anymore. I, per se, never had experience losing a child, but I have experienced losing the generation that they call that's underneath of us, the younger generation.
And you lost someone that was near and dear to you.
Yes.
About two weeks ago.
Yes. It was my granddaughter's father. He lost his life due to gun violence. And my grandbaby is only but 8 years old. And the thing that really bothers me the most is because at first I thought that my granddaughter was so strong because she was encouraging everyone at the service, and she was saying, it's going to be all right. He's our angel now. And then it hit me that is my granddaughter getting used to this being the norm?
Wow.
Is she feeling like that this is just every day? It's a one violence after another. There's a killing. So it's becoming normal for our babies.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to get used to this. This is not something that is acceptable at all.
Yeah. So Pastor D, when Tara came to you, and where were your thoughts? What were you thinking?
Well, I've known Tara just about all of her life, I'll say. She's younger than me. In the projects where we grew up, her older brothers and I were playmates and such. So when you have somebody that comes from the hood, as they say, and who has the level of respect that she carries in the community, then of course I paid close attention. And what she approached me with was, this wasn't the first funeral she had seen me eulogize. There were a number of them. And she was very insistent that the young people who were responding to me at the funeral needed to hear these voices all the time, that there needed to be some way to kind of get the message out to more and more and more young people. I told her I agreed, and we talked about the march. And we ended up, although she was telling me about what needed to be said, my associate pastor came to me at the same time in the same week, Reverend Josie Allen, and she said, Pastor, I had a dream. And in the dream, she saw this march. And I listened, and I believe that for those who are not of my faith, or may not be, something supernatural and spiritual had taken place. And so we began to work on structuring the March of the Unheard Voices, because each of us talked about the voices that would not be heard. And then mothers. We have a couple of mothers of murder victims on our committee. One here in the studio today, Sister Michelle, Sister Sharif, whose daughter was an innocent victim in Browntown, I believe it was, standing beside two guys, and she was murdered in the crossfire. And those mothers felt their voices had not been heard. So we have this whole idea of silence, and we thought, wow, what would happen if a mass of people, black, white, short, tall, every persuasion, Republican, Democrat, walked across this city in silence?
Right.
What would happen in the silence? What good could come about? Who would contemplate the way they're living? Who would think? You know, because there's so much clamor in our community, and the children and people are hearing so many voices that they don't have a moment of silence. So, and that's where the also we had done a great deal of work on solutions. As you know, Captain Fahim of the Wilmington Police Department, myself, Chief Bond. So what we decided to do, because I'm a former member of the Wilmington Hope Commission, and I remember when the Hope Commission report was presented to Mayor Baker, I felt that our mayor, Mayor Persicki, and the other elected officials did not need to be antagonistically challenged, but rather we would hand them a report of solutions. And we came up with that called the WAVE report, the Wilmington Anti-Violence Engagement Team. And it's a structured intervention program, but we're going to hand it to the mayor, the chief police, and those folks at the conclusion of the march.
Nice, nice. Now, you've been a part of many marches.
Yeah.
A lot of, like the George Floyd March and things like this. Now, this is something that's totally different. This is about our community, you know, the black-on-black crime in our community. What are you, if you could tell a shooter right now what would you tell that shooter?
What I would tell the shooter, well, first of all, it would depend on where the particular person is in their mind, because any one of us in this room could be the shooter. You can't identify the shooter after he's shot. It's somebody. It's too late. So I like to think of what I would tell potential shooters.
Potential shooters.
And,
all right.
And
shooters.
every kid out there who lives in the community is in fact a potential shooter. And what I would tell them is there's another way. I understand, because I was a 17-year-old kid when I shot somebody and went to prison for over 15 years of my life. I understand what goes on inside of their minds and heads when they carry a gun. I know the feeling of power. I know the disconnection that has to happen within you in order to pick up a gun instead of a book. And I know what drove me to that particular point where I would use violence as a way to express myself. So I would immediately begin to relate to them about where they are, because I tend to know where they are. And I don't believe you can have anything to say to these folks unless you've been there. I really believe you have to know where a person is inwardly. So I would say, I understand you. And then when they challenge me, because they will challenge you, I would share with them why I understand them. I would talk to them about the feeling in your stomach after you've pulled that trigger, and what happens to you biologically and chemically, and the sleep that you lose after you've shot somebody, and the number of times you jump when you hear something in the street, the paranoia that goes on, and the retaliation. I lived all of it, I understand it, and I would let them know, and there's a way to get out of it all.
Now, Tara, what would you say to a potential shooter, being the family of a loved one lost on our crime against each other?
One, I will give them eye-to-eye contact so they can feel that what I'm about to say is coming strictly from my heart. And what I would encourage them and to let them know is that how much that I love them and that there is another and better way that we can handle any problem. We are trying, I would let them know that I'm here for them no matter what. It doesn't matter, what time or what day. I understand what they're going through. I understand that a lot of times it becomes mental. And what happens is, these kids now dealing with the community, the younger generation, a lot of them, it becomes survival for them. A lot of these kids, when they look in their refrigerator, they come home, some of them only might have water in their refrigerator, and then half the time when they see the young man on the street, he may have on the latest Jordans, and his mom can't afford to get him Jordans. You understand? So then that person across the street makes it look good, make it look easy, so it's easy for them to pull them over. So I start encouraging them, letting them know that, you can have anything you want in life. As long as you work hard at it. It's okay that you have people that really genuinely love and care about you. And I'm one of them. And, I just want to be able to help the community, to help our young generation, because I believe that they're missing that love. They're looking for people who genuinely care and who can relate, who's been there. Right. I've never pulled a trigger. I've never killed anyone and never been in those shoes. But I have been in the shoes of feeling unwanted, feeling unloved, so I can relate on that avenue, so I'm just here to just encourage, be an encourager in any way that I can.
Nice. Now, today you both been busy since the beginning of this, but today is we're getting down to the final lap.
Yes.
Can you tell me about the press conference that you had today?
Wow, great. We had a press conference I'm very proud of. I can only compare it to, I was privileged to travel to Forsyth, Cummings, Georgia, one of 7 activists from across the country who marched into Forsyth County with Oprah Winfrey and Coretta Scott King and those folks when the Klan had. And that press conference that morning on the Savannah State campus in Savannah, Georgia, it was one of the most beautiful conferences I'd ever participated in, because there were white citizens who were as vehement as we were about what was going on in Forsyth. There were older citizens, younger citizens, black citizens, Hispanic, Latino. There was just this cross-representation, an American quilt. And this morning, I felt the same thing as we stood there. There was a Republican white lady flanking me on my right and a Democrat over here, just a multiracial blanket.
Let's go back to the clip real quick. Dennis, go back to the clip real quick and tell me who do we have that was out there with you?
Well, next to me on my right is Julianne Murray. She's a Republican white lady. I said white lady, and she's a criminal trial lawyer. Okay. So I didn't just meet these people because of political affiliations. I met them throughout the course of my criminal background. And then you have, of course, Tara with me. You have a mother of a murder victim. You have Sharice Monique, who's a local celebrity of sorts. And behind them, you can't see them, are other whites and others. So it was a quilt to me. Different people think different, all with one common denominator. Right. That is the violence. In the black community, you said something very pointed. When we say it's black on black, and it sort of releases people from the sense of responsibility to be involved in the solutions, because we even believe, well, it's a black problem. We can do nothing to resolve any problem in any community with any people without others, without everybody. And I noticed that in this country, even though civil rights and voting rights was a black problem, if you will, it wasn't until white Catholics and other whites throughout the country walked with blacks that they brought the issue to a head. And I believe that violence in the black community will not end until all communities are taught. We have proved as Americans we can overcome anything when we're together. We have not proven we can do it when we're apart.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with you. You know, when you watch old footage of Martin Luther King and the bus rides, the boycotts.
Yes.
You do see other ethnicities
yeah.
that are not like us,
Yeah.
like ours. And so, and when you see that, you say, you know, when you can cry about what goes on in my community, and I can cry about what goes on in your community, that is the place where we make change.
And even finance. A lot of people don't know when we talk about our history of the civil rights, we need to read the fine print. Many whites financed the civil rights movement. They put money there so that things could be done. Well, we have the same experience here. Our sponsors are behind the scenes. You know, Julianne's one of them, and nobody's getting any public credit for who paid for the flyers and who paid for the radio time and what have you. But it's there. And guess what? We can't do it without white folk money. They can't do it without our charisma and gifts. We need to, again, be together in human kindness and love, and then we can resolve any problem.
I got you. Let's toast to that. Boom.
Yes.
March, the March on Unheard Voices. Let's give me the date and time for that.
Saturday, Halloween, that's the 31st, I believe. This coming Saturday, 12, we will assemble at Speakman Park. There are buses of what I understand of citizens coming up from Sussex. There we will line up. Every marcher must have on a mask, must wear your mask. We'll be lined up and spaced according with the social distancing.
CDC guidelines.
CDC guidelines. Of course, the police are going to provide us the traffic control. I've heard today from Governor Carney's office, and all are invited to join us in this march. We'll leave there, proceed down Market Street, all the way to Rodney Square. And Rodney Square will be met by those who have the doves, the funeral homes, because there will be a memorial similar to the 9/11 memorial of victims of 9/11. We will be calling names of murder victims in Wilmington at intervals, and doves will be released into the sky as a memorial to them, to honor their families. In addition, the packet I described, the Wilmington Anti-Violence team paperwork engagement will be handed to our elected official. It includes everything from gun collection to how to deal with retaliation to how to deal with the substance abuse issue. It is a thorough report to the mayor as to what he can implement on the street.
Oh, wow. Wow. What's going to make this, and you spoke about it earlier, but I want you to say it again for people that are just tuning in. What's going to make this march different is the fact that no one is speaking.
Yes.
Right, the silence.
Yes.
Well, if you notice from the flyers, we call it Silenced by Violence. We have been silenced by violence. If you would go to Philadelphia right now, after all of the clamor of the National Guard and the anger and the looting, at night there's a deadening silence. And in that silence, I believe, is where people make life and death decisions. Through the silence of depression, we decide to commit suicide. Through the silence of mourning, we decide life is worth the living. And through the silence of passive resistance, we have won civil rights movements. And I believe through this silence, we will grip the city of Wilmington, and all of us in that same time frame, in that same moment, will have to think and will have to reflect on what life means to us and to each other. So it's the silence of violence, the march of the unheard voices.
I can't wait. October 31st. Anything in closing?
Well, just beat me there. Don't meet me there. Come on out to the march. And again, those of you who have relatives and friends and family members who have been slain. Not to mention young people who are gang members or thinking about joining the gang or running around in groups. You know who they are. Send them, let them know that we're shouting them out, and this march is for them. We've already ran into a number of them on the street
Have you?
this morning. Yes, we have. Who are willing to walk, because guess what? They don't want to keep shooting it out either. Many of those young people are looking for a way out of the lifestyle that they have found themselves in. This packet helps the Attorney General's office to know where they are, how to connect with them, and how to help them.
Now, let me ask you this, Pastor Lee, are you offering some, Joshua Harvest Church offering some program or anything that if people, you know, gang, people girls that's in the gang that want to come and talk or want to
We have,
come in?
as you know, in the press, they had a big covering of the last gang roundup, they called it, that we did at my church. 30-some-odd gang members were rounded up by the police, and we ended up running them and their parents through a very effective program. If you notice, none of those young men have been back involved in gang culture. However, I'm one church. We're overwhelmed. I'm inundated with phone calls from parents and such, and so that's why we've put what I know into this packet and what we do at Joshua. But our particular church program will continue to go as long as we can handle it, and as long as we can provide effective service to parents. But we're overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with phone calls of family and parents who believe their children could benefit. I have parents in the studio and parents waiting now. You know, can I send my son? Will you come? So again, I've put the formula, though, in this packet, and it can be replicated. Anybody can do it. Pastor D is not the exception. He's the rule. Many of us can do this if we just come together.
Come together.
In the silence.
There you go. There you go. Wait a minute, hold on. What you do? What you do? There you go. It's your main man, Big Ive. Let me say thank you to both of you for your time and space and coming out and addressing this issue and making a good step to create change. So I appreciate you both, Pastor D of Joshua Harvest Church and Tara Williams from the community.
Yes. Thank you for having us, Ive.
Thank you. It's your main man, Big Ive, talking to Thomas, the DETVCH.com. Make sure you share this on your Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching across all our platforms. And also, again, October 31st at 12 noon. And they're going to, what park they're going to meet at, Pastor?
Speakman Park.
Speakman Park.
30th and Market Street.
30th and Market. Make sure you're there. Wilmington, show up, because this doesn't just affect the black community. It affects all communities. All right? It's your main man, Big Ive. And remember, we are Delaware and we are Wilmington. Wilmington strong all day.